welcome back to life as a law student. If you haven't been here before, welcome for the first time, I guess. Today I'm talking with one of my closest friends from law school, Lydia, who is amazing, has a podcast about law school as well, which we'll plug for you at the end of this video. But today, me and Lydia are going to talk to you about our summer job experiences / traumas, and hope that you find that entertaining and hopefully a little bit educational. So Lydia, hello. Thank you.
Hey, Nicole.
You look so nice. This is about as good as it gets for me during quarantine.
The pressure of video. I'm not used to this.
That's right, because podcasts you're not.
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense. Yeah, my per subscribers just have dealt with a lot of sweaty ponytails in the last couple months, so this is an upgrade from that. How has your summer been going, job-wise and other life-wise?
It just feels like a continuation of this semester. Going from the remote classes to remote job. I like my internship. I think it's really awesome. I would so recommend for future students to work in a clinic because my boss is a professor. So it's like her job to explain things. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I can just ask her any questions that I have and she'll explain them. And she's used to working with students. You know, she doesn't expect me to be like the professional, like attorney. And the way ours is structured, we're on our own, you know, because it's remote, but we have every week a check-in with the whole team that is partially a class. Like she'll send us things to read and then we'll talk about them. And then we have a one-on-one like supervising attorney meeting once a week where I ask her 800 questions. So it has a little bit of a structure, but I'm kind of on my own every day and I kind of like that for quarantine.
Yeah, are all those meetings virtual?
Yeah.
Okay. But the clinic that you're working for, maybe we should go back to that. What are you actually doing for your summer job?
Yeah, it's funny. It's like, I know you know what I'm doing, but you know, the strangers on the internet don't know. Right. I'm working in one of the clinics at our school. There's like 6 clinics maybe, and every school has different types of clinics. We have immigration clinic, which is what I'm doing, and then we have like a low-income taxpayer clinic, a children's rights clinic, an entrepreneurship clinic, civil rights, right? And like an appellate clinic.
Yeah, and then there's stuff separate for like what I want to do, which is prosecution. There's 1 or 2 clinics / internships, and then there's a defense clinic as well.
Okay, see, I didn't even know about those because
those are the only ones I know about. So.
Yeah, so it's great. It's like housed within the school. There's a separate area that's like a functioning law office, and they're able to, with the school's resources, take on clients who otherwise couldn't pay. So it's great as a student to have real clients, and it's great for the clients to have someone working on it who's learning, but supervised by a real attorney.
For sure. I think it's a really good opportunity for law students and the community, because law students, I feel like to some extent, even more than real attorneys, are so like eager to please and do a good job. Like, you're like, I don't want to mess up your whole life because I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm going to try to figure out what I'm doing.
Yeah. Hence the like 800 questions every week. We're not jaded yet, you know?
I might be a little jaded.
You're a little jaded?
So is immigration kind of what you would like to do post-law school?
It is relevant to what I want to do. I'm really interested in how migration will change due to climate change. It seems like migration is a sensible and predictable adaptation to rising temperatures, sea level rise, resource conflicts, and sometimes those changes might create the conditions like a war where someone would then become a refugee if they moved, but often they don't. Like refugee is a really specific legal category, like set of categories. And so I just think we need to change things up and be prepared for migration, which which immigration is part of that, but internal displacement is a huge part of that. And that's kind of what I'm interested in the United States. I can't imagine someone on the East Coast who's displaced, not just going further west. Like, I don't think they would be dealing with immigration. I think they'd be dealing with internal displacement. Mm-hmm. So I am also interested in cities and, state government. I'm not really sure what it'll look like, but I do feel like I have to understand immigration to understand migration.
Definitely. But I know nothing about any of that. So just listening to you talk about it is already educational for me. And something that we were talking about before is that, especially right now, not only in the Trump administration in general, but especially this year with the Supreme Court, there's been a lot of movement in immigration law. And I certainly do not expect you to be an expert in that at all. But what's your general understanding of what's happening now and what it might do to affect these issues in the future?
Oh my gosh.
It's okay. Don't worry. Like, no pressure. If you're just like, I don't know, none of us know, that's okay too. I just, like, as somebody who literally knows nothing, like less than nothing about immigration law, whatever you know is going to be cool for me to listen to and hopefully cool for other people to listen
to. Okay. Well, I can link to information that my boss, the clinic director, commented on the Supreme Court decision about DACA, deferred action. But I don't really know much about that case because I think the like wins and the good changes, I just haven't read anything about it. I'm like, whew, good. And then I'm focusing on the like bad changes.
Yeah.
So one of those bad changes that I've been focusing on and trying to organize students around. So if you're listening to this, it's not too late. Listen up. There are a lot of different proposed changes to asylum law, which I know I've used words that sound like they're synonyms, like refugee, asylum. It just means that someone who would be a refugee because they're fleeing persecution is already in the United States when they're applying to get protection from the US government. So, if you're outside the United States, you're applying to be a refugee. If you're inside, you're applying for asylum. And it's just like a little bit different process.
I literally didn't even know that. So,
well, see, I thought I would I could help out in that way. I could give the basic definition. But asylum law is already pretty strict, and there are some judges who will deny like 96% of cases, 98% of cases. It's really hard to get. So it's kind of weird that there are so many proposals to make this more strict because it doesn't seem like a crisis, even if you are more protectionist in your political stance. So some of the things make me so sad. I can't describe all of them, but like one of them would make it harder for survivors of domestic violence to seek asylum because the thinking is that that's not really like persecution from a government, that's more of like a private matter. And related to that makes me sad, thoughts on or like opinions on gender wouldn't be viewed as like a political opinion, because political opinion is something that you can get refugee status for. Like if you are opposing the government because of your political opinion, and so the government won't protect you in your own country, you're trying to come to the US where they're more open-minded or something. So, I mean, I'm a feminist, and I just think that opinions on gender can be very political. Like, what if your government doesn't have many women in power and you think there should be more women in power? That's a political opinion. I just hate that now people who are persecuted because they're sticking up for women's rights wouldn't be eligible. But the reason I did this intense glare earlier was because public comments are open until July 15th. And I'll send you, Nicole, a link to like a video that can explain more of the changes. Like, I'm going to focus in my public comment on gender, but there's a lot of other types of changes that might strike someone. And I can also include a link to like a format for what public opinions, like what public comments look like. And the strategy is just to send in as many public comments as we can for two reasons. One, trying to like slow down the changes. Like if these do come into effect, it would at least be better for them to come into effect later than to come into effect immediately. And the second one is that we're trying to get as many different like angles to this as possible. Like someone might bring up a public health issue, I might bring up a gender issue, and if it's not somewhere in the public comments, then it's harder to like appeal later or something. Yeah. That's my understanding of it.
And I will definitely put all those links below. This is, as I've said before, not a topic I'm educated on whatsoever, but if you want to be educated on it and you're passionate about that, you can find all the links of the things that Lydia is talking about in the description box below, which you should click after you finish watching the video. So when it comes to immigration and these changes that are being made, you said that something like 96 to 98% of cases currently are already being denied. Do you know what differentiates those 2 to 4% that are granted? What's the reasoning there right now?
So those are statistics that I've like heard about from judges at the border. And one issue that might explain why that one number is so high, which is not the question you asked me, but might have some context, is that a lot of people don't have legal representation. So you get a form that's like, why are you applying for asylum? And it's like actually a pretty short form, and it doesn't actually ask for all the things that it wants to hear. Kind of like our law school exams, where you're like, there are all these unspoken questions that you're supposed to address.
Yeah.
So if you actually just fill it out in good faith with no legal expertise, you'll probably just be denied because you have to say the right words. And so it could be that that's the percentage of people who have legal representation, or there's also a big issue with being like believed, because of course the fear is, from a more protectionist standpoint, is that anyone can just say they're being persecuted.
Sure.
So it's hard to have the right evidence, and I don't actually know like why that breakdown is the way it is. Haven't actually been in court yet. It would have been a cool thing with the clinic if we were in person to be able to see some of these things. Are you, I want to hear about your internship. Like, are you going to like court, virtual court?
It's funny. Literally today was the first time I sat in on anything. Like, we're 6 weeks into the 10-week internship, and like today was the first, I think it was sentencing. It was like sentencing hearings that I could sit in on. They've been happening, I think, virtually, but this was the first one that I got to see, and I don't know how regular that's going to be for the rest of the internship. It was an interesting experience, like hearing the judge have to ask all these additional questions about like making sure, like, do you understand this? Like, do you understand that you have a right to appear in person if you want to? Do you understand that like you're waiving these rights by appearing virtually by video? Like, it just made the process more intense and like thorough than I had seen before when I was working at the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office, and it wasn't virtual. And I don't know if part of that is just this judge or Delaware, but it seems to me that because you have to be crystal clear about what it means to be virtual versus in person, it seemed to make the process really like humanizing for the defendants in like kind of an odd way, which I didn't expect, because I would have expected like you just, now you're instead of a person in front of you, like you're this person on a screen that like you look that way and they don't exist anymore. So that was interesting to me, at least for the sentencing. I can't speak to anything else because that's all I saw, but at least for the sentencing and with this judge that I was watching, it opened up a lot more dialogue and ability for the judge to converse with the defendant and recognize, like, you're human, you have rights, like, this is what it means to do it this way. And yeah, it was really interesting to do that for like an hour today.
Yeah, that's not what I would have expected from virtual.
Right. And I think, I don't know if it was you or somebody else, I think it was one of our other friends, Ashlyn from law school, who was saying when I was talking with her earlier that she's worried that because people are doing at least these hearings right now virtually, and in some states, entire trials virtually, that going forward, even when we're beyond the pandemic scare, we might revert to just going virtual anyway for these people who otherwise have a right to be heard in person. But I think that this hearing gave me a little bit of hope because they were really emphasizing, like, you don't have to do it this way if you don't want to. And like, sure, there is like some level of, you don't really have another choice right now, like it's either do it now or do it later. But at least for these people who were pleading guilty, I mean, the time that they're spending in jail right now is going to count towards whatever their sentence is. So it wouldn't really make a big difference for them if they waited versus didn't. And so I think it was probably in their best interest to just get the closure now on what their sentence would be. But yeah, I think that there's something to be said for having the virtual option for defendants going forward, like when it is really inconvenient to go to court, or it's more efficient, or it's something like this where it's a hearing and not like a full-blown trial where you're facing witnesses. It's just going through a list of questions. That doesn't seem crazy to me to consider doing virtually going forward.
Yeah, I filled out a motion for a telephonic hearing for several of our clients. Just, I think we did that even before the pandemic because the closest immigration court is in Kansas City.
Wow.
Might not be the right word, but whoever they need to appear in front of is, 3 to 4 hours away.
That's where I was this last weekend for
Really?
it's like a 4-hour drive from St. Louis.
How was it?
That's good. I was with my college friend and her family, set off a bunch of fireworks, got 2 real bad bug bites that I'm trying very hard right now not to itch.
No one would see.
I know, they're like on my ankles. I told my friend, I'm like, I must have really juicy ankles for these bug bites, and she almost spit out her water that she was drinking. But yeah, I was talking with another judge too who was on a panel for our internship. We've had every week 2 trainings, one about like the office and the courts, and then one about trial procedure, which has been super interesting. And so one of the things about the courts was a panel of judges, and one of those judges was saying that she's like a judge for family court, and so she's like, I might want to do this virtual stuff for any hearing where I need a social worker to come in, because then they're not wasting half their day sitting in a waiting room in the courthouse, and I can just call them in, get that whatever I need from them done virtually, and then they can go do the work that they need to be doing and not have their time tied up here. And I thought that made a lot of sense.
It does make sense. Yeah. Yeah, we've been meeting with clients virtually, and I don't know. It seems okay. It's nice to have an in-person meeting, but for that convenience element, if it's someone, maybe this is more the case with clinic clients, but if someone has multiple jobs, kids that they have to find childcare for, whatever's easiest for them is what I think the lawyer should be considering.
Yeah. I definitely think the pandemic is opening everyone's eyes to what technology should and should not be used for, and ways that we can use it to benefit and make more efficient certain systems, and also things that like need to be in person, i.e. law school. I'm not a fan of law school online, just not a surprise to anybody. I did buy this last week like 7 different things to set up my apartment to be more productive.
What did you buy?
I bought a couple like desk options. I'm going to return the stuff that doesn't work. I bought some things that could be like alternatives to each other, but some desk options that I could use like on my couch. I got better headphones that actually have a microphone in them because everyone complains about feedback. I probably should have used those today, but didn't. What else did I get? Oh, one of them was like back pillow ergonomic support things because I don't have a proper desk chair. I didn't want to spend $100 on a chair. So
office furniture, man. Wreck it.
Yeah, so we'll see how those work out. I'm actually going to make a video on them, so I don't know if that will come out before or after this one, but.
Here's another immigration update.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I've been pro online classes, or if it is hybrid, pro getting rid of the curve because in-person classes are so much better.
Either way.
Yeah. But I mean, I really was thinking the school would probably go all online, and I would have been supportive of that for equality reasons, even though I don't learn better that way. But the update with immigration is that there are certain student visas that would be affected, according to ICE, if schools went all online. The foreign nationals, such a weird word. I guess it's better than alien, but it still is weird to say, but I guess that's what they say in immigration.
Yeah.
Foreign national students who are here on those visas, if their school is all online, they have to leave the country, which is just so stupid.
So they have to go to school at 1:00 in the morning or something. That's
that really- and like they have lives here. They have, they have planned. It's so late in the summer. So there's no, I don't understand the like reason for it, even from different political points of view. I don't see why like a scholar from another country would be in any way interfering with someone who is a citizen. I don't know. So it's very hard for me to understand why. It's just super frustrating. I know a lot of international students at WSU, but also like when I was living in Boston, I was friends with international students, and this is just turning their lives upside down. So now I'm less on board with the everything online. I'm like, okay, let's do hybrid, but like really responsibly, I guess.
Yeah. What if it's hybrid and then later we're like, nope, we got to go all online? Like they have like a week to move out or something?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know about that scenario.
Because I feel like that is not an unlikely scenario to start hybrid and then realize that we need to go back online. That's hard. I wanted to change gears really quick because the last thing I wanted to ask you about that I haven't talked about on my channel at all was like the summer job search and how that went for you, how you ended up working for the clinic that you're working for now. Was that what you originally were applying to? What did that situation look like for you?
I'm not the most responsible person to ask, but I will talk about my experience.
It's different for everybody, so.
And I know you put in a lot of work too. So you said you haven't talked about this yet because like I want to hear about your.
Yeah, I'll tell you after.
Okay. So I got together some application materials over winter break. And is that when I started applying? Yeah. Okay. I remember. It feels like a different lifetime because it was like in person and, so sent cover letters and resumes to Career Center, and they responded very quickly. I mean, I've had good experiences with our Career Center. And then I think I just like sent off some stuff through the Career Center website and didn't have a lot of luck with that. I went to the winter receptions for big firms, even though they don't really hire that many one else as summer associates, but they're so fun.
Good for you.
They're so lavish.
I went to that one reception in the fall with the Hush.
Oh, really?
And I was there for like 20 minutes, and I was like, this is not for me. I felt like such an imposter because I was like, I have no intention of working here or for Big Law anyway. And I just went because I thought it was something I had to do. And then I was there and I was like, literally no one cares if I'm here or not. So I left.
Yeah, I guess part of me was like actually considering like applying for those jobs, so I didn't have that feeling. But oh, the food. And I went to some in Boston, and then I went to some in Charlotte, where I'm from. And it was just cool. You got to see the different vibes of the firms, and I ended up like sending in the follow-up emails and sending in my resume, and didn't get any of them. But you kind of have to be like top of your class or part of a program, like a hiring initiative program, and like I just didn't really like apply myself to those kind of things. So um, I let's see. Now we're at spring break, maybe, or like I did a little bit during spring semester, but um, I connected with a friend's dad in Charlotte who is a partner in a firm there and also just knows a lot of attorneys in Charlotte. And we talked about like things I was interested in. He helped me brainstorm. He introduced me to some people, and like that I'm just like this giving the same advice that like everyone gives all the time. But when I compare that interaction with like career services, like they're awesome, but there's only so much they can do. And their website is just, it's for everyone. But as someone who like cares about you and knows you saying like, oh, you should talk to this person, like it's amazing. So I had some interviews going in Charlotte, and now we're at the part of the timeline that the pandemic happened. And oh, I just remembered. Sorry. I had thought that I wouldn't be doing any of this because I applied for a scholarship to go abroad and do climate related migration work in Bangladesh. I applied in November. So I was like, I won't even be part of, like, I didn't look at any career services stuff in the fall semester. I was waiting on that. Then I got rejected. And then I wanted to do this I wanted to work for this like migration center. And so I was like waiting and waiting. Both of these like had very long wait times. And then I got rejected from that. So that's why like I started late. Sorry. In my mind, I was thinking I was lazy, but then I was like, no, I have a reason. Okay. Now we're at spring break and things are like really getting dire. So I applied for some stuff in St. Louis. It just seemed like it was getting likely that I would stay here. And I had an offer from the immigration clinic. Like I sent in my application, she interviewed me the next day. It was so great. It just seemed like a good fit. And I knew I'd be able to just walk to school. I don't have a car, so that was awesome. And then I got this other job offer too, for a legal aid society in Chicago that had an outreach program in Southern Illinois, close to the border with St. Louis.
Okay.
Working on providing potential labor trafficking victims with like information about their rights and connecting them with attorneys if they needed. So it would be like outreach. I'd be going to farms, construction sites, and personality wise, that's way more me. But I spoke with my legal practice professor, Shields, who I keep forgetting. You didn't have her. We were in different sections, but in my mind, we're in the same section. So I reached out to her because she's just like this angel, this guardian angel over all of this. And she was like, you need to take clinic because that job will exist and this other job will not exist. And I was like, whoa, like the pandemic was getting, like things were getting, it was right before the shutdown. So that is my long rambling story of how I didn't get these things that I wanted internationally, and I was really bummed about it, and then it really worked out.
So what happened with that other job? Did it end up not existing? Do you know?
I emailed them to just tell them about my concerns. I was like, I don't know how this is going to look if we're still social distancing by summer. And the thing is, it was paying like a lot more than the clinic too. So part of me was like, I really want this to work out. And what I was hoping they would say in response was, if we can't do this outreach project, we'll assign you to do something else remotely. But they didn't say that. They said, we think you'll be able to do this job. We don't think that the social distancing thing will be an issue. So because they didn't kind of guarantee that there would be remote work, I just had to pass. So it's things. Yeah.
I I don't think I started doing anything until Christmas break either.
Okay, good. That makes me feel better.
I think in theory they wanted us to do things over Thanksgiving, but I was like, we have finals, so not gonna do that. And then I started doing things kind of like the last week of Christmas break, and I don't know how many places I applied, maybe like 20 to 30 ish.
Oh,
Not all like in a week, but probably over the span of like a month or so. And I had a couple phone interviews, um, some of which it was interesting. Like, you would interview, you're like, oh, I kind of hope I don't get this job. Like, I just didn't like, or no, I shouldn't say I didn't like, I don't know the people, but I didn't feel like I clicked with the person I was talking to. And for whatever reason, that's really important to me. I just want to be able to respect and feel like the person who's supervising me like gets me. And that was something that was the case for even when I picked law school. Like, one of the reasons I picked WashU was because the admissions team was so like on top of knowing who I was and what I wanted out of my law school experience. Some of which has been a follow through on, some which has not. But that's like the first impression, and that's the only one you get. So there's a couple jobs that I interviewed for that I was like not that big of a fan of and was not mad when I didn't get it. There were some others that I was bummed because I thought like I had a really good interview, and then you get the rejection email. You're just like,
no, I wanted you to be in North Carolina.
I know, that was one of them. I loved this interview I had with the public defender in Mecklenburg County. And I visited North Carolina a couple years ago for just like a couple of days, but really liked it and was like, I want to come back here and just see if I like actually living here. And so I tried really hard. I tried to go to law school in North Carolina. That didn't work out. Then I tried to get a job in North Carolina, and that didn't work out. But we'll try for next summer, I guess.
Yeah.
We got like 2 more chances. So yeah. Anyway, I was applying kind of all over, and now I'm working for the Delaware Attorney General, which was not an office I intended to apply for, but we had this big job fair, which I thought was actually really well done. I don't know about you. It was like a
It
lot
was,
more put together than I expected it to
I
be.
mean, I'm an extrovert, so I was like, hey, hey, hey. I got like all of the like free stuff. I was like, oh my gosh, look at your table. You're so cute. I love your post-it notes. Thank you. I'll have your pen. Yes, like so nice to meet you.
Yeah, I was really happy
Hated
when
it though.
all the people were there. And I was excited that there were a significant number of government offices that were represented from not just St. Louis, definitely primarily St. Louis, but I think Florida was there, New York was there, and Delaware was there.
Illinois stuff too.
Yeah, so I was going to like one of these kind of small group discussions with one of the employers. I don't remember which one, but it was a government office. And I ran into my career counselor like in the elevator, and I was like, "Hey, I'm trying to go to this thing. Do you know where it is?" And she's like, "Oh, it's like kind of over there, but you should check out this one with the Delaware Attorney General. I think you'd really like it." And I didn't really know how to find the first one anyway. So,
Oh
but
my,
she told me where the Delaware one was, so I just went to that.
that's wild.
Because I had no reason to think that I was gonna end up in Delaware. So I was like, well, I got to go to something, and I can't find this other one. So I was just late to the Delaware one, which I felt bad about. But I mean, I didn't know them, and I wasn't intending to apply, so I didn't really care that much. But I showed up, and there was like me and like 3 other people, maybe, and the attorney who was kind of like presenting his case for the internship. And I sat there and listened, and I really liked him and the way that he explained what they were doing. He seemed very passionate about the internship in general, like making it a good experience for the interns, and had focused activities and plans and seminar. Like, he was explaining, this is what you're going to do, and I already have plans for it. It's not just, well, maybe this will happen or maybe that will happen. It was like, here's my plan of how the summer will look. And I love a plan. I love a set schedule. I like knowing what I'm getting myself into. So that was very attractive to me for a job opportunity. Um, and so
And not just a job opportunity, but like your first summer.
mhm,
I feel the same way with the clinic. It's like I'm just so glad there's some instruction and some guidance, and
yeah.
it doesn't just happen. Like if you're working at a nonprofit
No.
law firm or if you're doing public interest work, you can't,
And
people are
especially,
stretched thin and
yeah,
it's not great.
especially from what I know of government stuff, like it's very rare that they have the resources to have somebody supervising all the interns, let alone somebody creating a program for the interns. That is not, from my understanding, a common thing. So to find that in a government office was great. Plus, generally, attorney general offices don't do criminal work because it's divided up into counties, and attorney general is for the state. And so otherwise, I wouldn't have applied to very many, if any, attorney general offices. But because Delaware is so teeny tiny, the attorney general does have a criminal division, and apparently there's a lot of criminal activity in Delaware. They are very busy. Um, so because of that, and because I liked him, I was like, okay, let's do it. Plus, I found out they don't pay their rising 2L interns, but they do pay their rising 3L interns. So I figured if for some reason I just really love Delaware, maybe I can come back and get paid, which also not common for a government internship.
Yeah.
So I applied to that. I like sent him a little email. I felt kind of weird because I maybe said 2 sentences to him the whole time that we were all in the room. Like, I'm sure he barely remembered my name, even though it was only the next day. But I emailed him. I was like, hey, I'd be interested in applying. Who should I send my stuff to? Whatever. And he was like, okay, yeah, great. Like, I wish you would have told me yesterday. I could have just interviewed you in person. And I was like, oh no, I messed up. But I was like so focused on everything else going on. I didn't even think about that. So, well, shoot. But I still sent in everything. He interviewed me along with somebody else. And then they ended up offering me a job. At the same time, I got a lot of other job offers. And that was,
Ooh, okay.
it was weird because I didn't get any job offers for like 3 months of applying, despite like being interviewed and despite knowing other people were getting accepted. And then like the week I had to make, then there's like this one week that came in February, March or something. I think it was February, where like all of a sudden I had 3 and I felt like I needed to pick one of those.
How did you decide? Just based on the stuff you just said, where it was like a structure and good personality?
Yeah, well, one one was here in Missouri. Kind of doesn't matter now, but I didn't really want to be in Missouri for the summer.
Wow.
So that didn't work out for me. And then the other one was in DC, and it was more of like this fellowship thing. Um, but you needed to find an internship in the area to do in concurrence with the fellowship. And I didn't want to have to like start over the job search process for DC, which is a competitive market. Even though they basically guarantee like if you can't find anything, we'll find you something. That doesn't
But then you don't know what it's going to be. And
steady, right? And then it turned out, which it was fine. I think I made the right decision, but it turned out like I rejected that fellowship, took the Delaware job, and the next day got an offer from a DC. I don't know, like DA or AG or something. And I was like, well, I could have done the DC one, but it's okay. I ended up not picking that because of that reason, and also because they wouldn't let me have a car. And when I thought I was going to be moving, I didn't want to deal with that.
they wouldn't let you have a car?
Well, because there's nowhere to park it, apparently. Like, you can't, they have a specific place for you to live, but if
Oh,
you're not a resident of DC, you can't get a parking permit. So there'd be nowhere to put it, which is wild.
that's so weird.
So yeah, so I picked
They don't
Delaware.
have street parking?
Huh?
They don't have street parking? Everyone has to have a permit?
I guess you have to have a permit to park on the street, at least
Gee.
in the residential areas.
Hmm.
So that was kind of crazy.
How are you finding all these places to apply? Do you have a big spreadsheet?
I do have a big spreadsheet. Yeah. I'm a
Nice.
fan of the Excel, mark every bit of information out,
Yeah.
color code based on what stage of application I'm on. I'm
Yes.
working on mine for next summer right now, which I think I have like 17 lined. I haven't started applying because that's tedious. But I've just been like procrastinating applying by listing places to apply.
Some productive procrastination.
Yeah, we'll call it that.
Yeah.
So yeah, my thought with Delaware was like I'll have this great program and I'll get to work in two different divisions because they split the summer between two. So I picked criminal and family. So this week I'm starting my work for the family division. But I was really excited for every weekend. I thought I was gonna go like explore a different part of the East Coast because I haven't spent a lot of time there, and I like traveling and seeing new areas. I've never really, well, I shouldn't say never. I went out of the country one time to be in Canada for like 8 hours. But other than that, I
The
haven't
Niagara
been out of
Falls,
the
or
country. Huh?
is it Niagara Falls?
No, it was Victoria.
Hmm.
I
Cool.
just was like, I want to go. So we did for one day. Um, but I've traveled a lot in the States. But a lot of that traveling was when I was like a kid on family vacations. So I thought it'd be really cool to like spend a weekend in New York City and spend a weekend like wandering around Rhode Island, I don't know, or like going to Boston or something. Or Philly. I've like never been there. I mean, I've been there now to the airport, but I didn't like actually see Philly. But I would really like to. So
And that sounds like it would help you narrow down your search for
right,
future jobs too.
totally, because I've had a lot of trouble with that, not knowing really where I want to end up after law school. Like
Me too.
thinking of, I really like Chicago, and I could definitely see myself going back there. But I really want to try North Carolina. I know that there's offices in the Philadelphia area I'd be really interested in working in. So my hope was to kind of like feel out the East Coast a little bit this summer
Mhm.
and see what I liked. But now it's not happening. So anyway, I'm just glad I still have a job. That was like questionable for a while.
Me
And
too.
I was actually talking to my supervisor that interviewed me and came and everything yesterday. And I told him, like, I think they've been doing a really good job with our internship and making it as good as it could be with it being remote. And it's not entirely remote for everybody, but because I live far away and I'm not being paid, I and like one other person are entirely remote. Um, so yeah, that was
Yeah, I think that my job being remote, it's okay. The infrastructure, the technology infrastructure is okay. Like we have a common place for all the files. It's very organized. Um, we have Zoom. Um, it I feel like we made it work. It just took me a while to get used to it. Like I'm kind of finally used to it, and like you said, 6 weeks in. So, and I'm kind of kicking myself for not applying for the immigration clinic for the fall. If I was there summer and then into fall and could like follow a whole case, and maybe when the courts were open, like go with a client and build those relationships, that would have been really cool. But didn't have that foresight when clinic applications were due.
yeah. So anyway, summer, it's a thing.
Yeah. I've got some other good side hobbies. I've been making this kombucha.
Wow, look at you,
Yeah,
Nancy.
look at that.
I have also been trying to grow living things in the
Really?
form of sourdough starter, and
Mm.
out my black thumb when it comes to plants is applicable to baking because
Sourdough's
I have
hard.
been doing everything right. I don't know why it's not growing. I don't understand. I've read like all these tutorials and like watched the videos and like I'm feeding it the right thing. I'm like I bought a little scale, I'm measuring it. I don't know why it won't grow, but it's been like 10 days and it's doing a whole lot of nothing.
Aw. Can you get a sourdough starter from someone else, like someone
I
at
mean,
church?
I could, but like the whole point was like I was like I want to prove that I can make something live, and I'm not proving that.
Mhm.
It's fine. I can make good things if they're not alive. Like once they're dead, I can make good things out of them.
Mm.
I know you're vegetarian, but I made these things called bieroks yesterday, which I'm actually gonna have for dinner again. But they're basically like a dinner roll wrapped around like ground beef, cheese, and cabbage. And you like mix in like dry onion soup basically to it all to like flavor it.
Is
And
this like Eastern European dish?
I think it's German.
Hmm.
Sorry if I'm wrong. I don't know. My friend that I was spending the weekend with was one of my roommates in college, and she made them for us because she's a great cook and baker and all of that. And she would always make food and share it, which is great. But she made these in college. I loved them. And then her family they have like a garden in their backyard, and they gave me a head of cabbage. And I was like, I don't know what to do with cabbage. And she goes, you know what uses cabbage is bieroks, which you really liked. So I was like, great, that's what's happening. So I made like 25 of these giant
Nice.
ground beef stuffed dinner rolls. I'm very excited about it.
In my mind, I'm imagining making them with the like soy crumbles, and it sounds good. Like that combination of flavors sounds good.
Yeah, it's really good. I think next time I'd add like some salt and garlic, but for the most part, it's pretty.
I've been cooking up a storm as well.
Yeah,
It's like the thing to look forward to every day. It's like the thing to do.
for sure. Yeah, I made you'd be actually really proud of me. I made what was it? Swiss chard salad, but it was like hot and steamed and had like onions and sprouts and like balsamic vinegar and stuff in it. It was very fancy and vegetable focused. I couldn't eat the whole thing, but it tasted pretty good. So I looked at it and I was like, that is something that Lydia would eat.
Yes.
Well, this definitely went over the time I was thinking this would take, so thanks for sticking around.
I'm not doing anything.
And thanks to all of you who are still watching 40 minutes later. Lydia, please plug your podcast because it's great and I love listening to it.
Well, I have a podcast with my friend Megan, who goes to Elon Law School, and it's called Law School in Brief because it was supposed to be brief episodes. They always end up going over, just like you and me. Talk too much, I guess. So it's a weekly show, about an hour long, just about our lives in law school, kind of like Nicole's channel, but if you're on a walk and can't watch a video, you can listen to us. So we're at lawschoolinbrief.com. On that page, there are links to different streaming services. You can also just search in Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, but we're like wherever you stream. And on the website, it has a little bit about our like values as a podcast. We're trying to make information about law school more accessible, just like you're doing. And we also have like a contact us form. So I'm imagining that your viewers have like questions about stuff that we haven't even touched on in the podcast. So any comments are welcome. And I don't know. I think that's it. I think that's the gist of it.
Great.
I think we're the only podcast that is narrating all 3 years of law school. There are a couple other podcasts that we found that are hosted by law students, but some of them are just like advice to future students, or like specific issues within law school and like advocacy issues. And I think we're the only ones who are just like, here's our lives. Here we are. Awesome. I was crying all day. Ha ha ha. Like that's kind of the vibe.
Yeah. And I don't listen to your podcast every week because I forget. But sometimes I go on there, especially if it's something that I've kind of heard you talk about in passing, but I just kind of want to feel the empathy of ranting about something I also don't like. That's my favorite thing to use it for. Just like someone else gets it.
I believe we have several different shout outs. There was a shout out in the very beginning when we both realized that we had media channels. And then I definitely gave you a shout out when I had the flu. I like recorded and I was like, my friends have been so nice to me. Oh, and I'm sure you got a shout out too when it was like around my birthday and you made me that amazing cake. So you have been featured on
Oh,
the
thank
pod.
you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm really glad that we could have you on here today because I think that you're so smart and wonderful, and it's fun to be friends with somebody who cares about issues that are really different than the issues I care about, so we can learn from each other. It's just there's no possible way for everyone to know everything about everything. You kind of have to pick in law school like a certain thing to get really in the weeds with, I feel like. And I like making friends with people who've picked different things than me. So thank you for letting me pick your brain about immigration and for your
criminal stuff. I don't
job.
know anything about that. So
Yeah, well, you can watch my channel. But thank you so much for being on the show today. And
thanks for inviting me.
everyone who is watching, please check out Lydia's podcast, Law School in Brief. Everything you need is in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you next Monday with another video. God bless until then.